Let's talk about what's happening with the children rather much younger than those who'd be looking at moving into this. You've written a letter to head teachers. You've been accused of basically trying to please both sides. You've told head teachers that parents will not have a veto over their children being taught about gay and lesbian issues, but schools must consult with local families over lessons. Now, this all, just for the background for people, comes after we've had a huge row, particularly in a school in Birmingham, where there have been protests from parents about their children being taught not sex education, but simply the existence of people of differing lifestyles. Not all families have a mother and a father, that gay people exist, that it's normal and natural. Like huge, really quite unpleasant protests. The teacher involved in the teaching of this programme says he's been facing death threats and the like. You say that parents shouldn't have a veto, but if they're having to consult parents, what are they consulting parents about?
Well, Julia, it's good to talk, and dialogue about these things is important. Parents are the prime educators of their children in many, many ways, and good interaction between schools and parents, particularly on sensitive issues like relationships education and relationships and sex education, is really valuable, and that's what I want to see happen. That's what we mean by consultation, is talking about these things, and parents knowing about what the contents of classes and so on can also help in conversations at home.
Well, I don't think that is going to help in this situation. These are it is a simple matter of fact. The parents who are objecting on the grounds of religion. They are Muslim. They say their religion teaches them that being gay is not only unnatural, it is wrong. It should be a criminal offence. They don't want their children. It's because they know the content of what their children are being taught that they don't want their children to know that A, gay people exist and should be treated with respect, and B, that it's normal and natural. So how is a consultation going to make any difference there?
Well, Julia, you were right earlier to draw a distinction between relationships education and sex education. So primary schools don't have to put on sex education, but they will have to in future do relationships education. Now, if they do also choose to do sex education, then parents have a right to withdraw their children from that, and that's a long-standing right which I defend. But when we talk about relationships education, that starts, at the start of primary school with being kind to one another and taking turns and looking out for children in the playground who may be unhappy. And then, of course, it develops into friendships and understanding the online world and some of the risks that there are with that, but also understand that there are different types of family, and we live in a diverse society. This is the society that children are going to grow up into as adults. But it is important.
But you say we. No, you say we. These families who are objecting in Birmingham don't grow up in a diverse society. They don't accept these things. They don't accept those values in our society. They live in a very sheltered view. And if they were not Muslim, if they were Christian or it wasn't religiously motivated, but they said, look, we hate gay people, we think they should be criminalised, we won't accept this, do you think that there would be these attempts to sort of bend over backwards to assuage them, or are they being given special treatment? Well, basically, these people are bigots. These people are homophobic bigots. Shouldn't we call them out for what they are?
Well, it is a diverse society that children in Birmingham are growing up in, as it is in London and Manchester. No, it's not.
It's not. In this area of Birmingham, it's almost entirely Muslim. The children at this school are almost entirely Muslim. They're not growing up in a diverse area. They're growing up in a largely Muslim area. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing good with that. Nothing. It's just that's a simple matter of fact. They're not growing up hearing diverse views, are they? That's the whole point.
Well, Julia, you're right that there are concentrations of different ethnic groups and different religious groups in individual parts of individual cities, but our society as a whole is a diverse society, and we have our Equalities Act, which talks about protected characteristics and making sure that in the way that in the public sector we go about things, we are respectful and inclusive of all people. By the way, one of the protected characteristics is religious faith, and it's also important that we have respect for.
Okay. So if we're going to respect the religious faith of those who are staunchly Muslim or devout Catholic or staunchly Hasidic Jew, if they have those views about gay people, should we respect those views and accommodate those views? When we have a clash between different minorities or different values, which ones trump?
Well, I have respect for all people, and I have respect for the great religions of the world. But I'm also clear that ours is a diverse society where we have written into law that we must have a due understanding and an inclusive attitude for all people.
Genuine, I mean, with all due respect, Education Secretary, none of those words have any meaning whatsoever. When there is a clash between the views of a staunch religious view, whether it's Muslim, Christian or whatever, and the rights of gay people to be treated as equals in our society, when there is a direct clash between those two values, which one do you take the side of? Because you have to pick a side eventually.
Well, you said my words had no meaning, actually, or value. I can't remember which you said.
Well, saying we live in a diverse society 20 times doesn't actually answer the question. Which side are you going to choose? Whose values do you choose?
Hang on. So it is a diverse society, and we have to have respect for everybody. And
no,
that
we don't.
Includes,
Should we respect the views of people who think that gay people should go to prison simply for being gay? Should we respect that view?
Julia,
I don't respect that view. I think that's a horrific view to hold.
Julia, you're absolutely putting words in my mouth.
No, but I'm asking you the question.
Hang on. At no point did I say that I respected those views or any like them. So you don't respect those religious views then? The fact is that in our society we should have respect for everybody. We must acknowledge the fact it's important that people know that there are different types of families. There are people of different sexual orientation, and knowing about that, being able to discuss that in school in a safe and supportive environment is much better than just hearing about these things from other children in the playground, or still worse, just finding out about stuff on the internet. And that's one of the reasons why we discuss these matters in school. And one of the reasons, only one, but there are many others as well, many other aspects to it, but one of the reasons why I think this the new relationships education, or coming in as a mandatory subject, many or most schools do it already, but it coming in as a mandatory subject, I think is a very important reform.
But do you understand that a lot of people listening to this will say that you dodged the question, and that actually when there is a clash between the values of different cultures, of different religious views or any other views, we have to pick a side at some point. When those two things clash, you have to decide which is the view, which is the value, which trumps the other value.
Well, the value which trumps all others is respect for individuals and understanding for individuals, and knowing that somebody may look different from you, they may have a different background from you, they may have a different sexual orientation from you, a different family from you, and they are absolutely deserving of respect. There isn't a hierarchy, and there isn't a hierarchy in the Equalities Act between the different what are called protected characteristics. What the law says and what we say is that you must have respect for everybody. That starts with being able to talk about mutual understanding. It talks about valuing people being different, about understanding how together that makes us a stronger society.
All right, Damian Hinds, Education Secretary, thank you very much for joining us.
The Education Secretary has intervened today on this long-running row in Birmingham about whether or not schools should be able to teach LGBT studies. In other words, should schools be able to say that it's okay to be gay and to teach the kids a bit of respect for different types of families? There have been huge protests outside more than one schools, with the teachers feeling very intimidated by the behaviour of some of the parents. Well, the Education Secretary has said today that it's entirely up to the schools what they decide that they want to teach, and that parents cannot have a veto over any specific subjects. Well, I'm delighted to be joined now on the line by Aquila Hope, who's an LGBT activist based in Birmingham. A very good evening to you.
Good evening to you too, John. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for joining us. The scenes outside the school, I think, are absolutely horrific. And the fact that these parents are ranting and shouting at kids as they come out of the school, intimidating the teachers, and the teacher who has played the lead role in this, Andrew Moffat, an assistant head teacher at Parkfield Community School, he started the No Outsiders programme. He's had a death threat. I mean, how has it possibly come to this pass, that teachers being threatened in this way simply for teaching values of decency and equality?
There's been a big misinformation and confusion in regards to exactly what No Outsiders is. No Outsiders ultimately is about equality and introducing primary school children to the idea that people are different, and that includes people who have fathers, mothers, parents who are different than each other, including same-sex couples and also immigrants and all sorts of different people. So it's really about that. The books are not explicit in any way, shape or form. They're very much about introducing that there are different people and everyone has their differences.
Yes, because there is an implication. Some of these parents are suggesting that the kids are being taught about gay sex. Now, that is specifically not the case, is it? Because what the books talk about is they talk about relationships. They talk about equality. There's nothing explicit in them. They're entirely appropriate for children of this age.
Yes, they are very much age appropriate. And we've already had a precedent set, not just by Ofsted, who investigated it, not just by, not only just done by Damian Hinds as well, stating that there is no precedent for it. So it's been stated again and again. And at this point now, it's reaching a point where it's disrupting the school life of the parents coming in and out of school, just trying to bring their children in and out of school. And really, it's not acceptable anymore.
I mean, this all reminds me of Clause 28. I thought we'd seen the back of this kind of bigotry and prejudice, but I noticed that one of the campaigners, I'm not sure if he's a parent or not, Amir Ahmed, said this is converting children with a heterosexual background towards believing that homosexuality is fine. Well, children should be taught that homosexuality is fine because a significant number of the children will be homosexual, and if they're not homosexual themselves, they will have friends who are gay. And it's just a bizarre outlook into life, because almost every gay person I know comes from a heterosexual background with heterosexual parents. Telling children that being gay is okay does not make them gay.
No, it's very much reminds me of the Clause 28. And even in my time, I wasn't particularly educated in regards to relationships outside of being heterosexual. So to me, this is a great piece of progress, and No Outside, this is a great piece of, it's a great program in itself. And it really, I understand the concern of Muslim parents in this case of why that might be the case. But however, this isn't the case at all. It's been something where I've been speaking to people in the LGBT community who've been trying to show that the material of No Outsiders is not about that at all. It's very much about just showing differences between people.
Yeah, well, don't go outside of school and start ranting until you've taken the trouble to open the book and find out whether your rants are appropriate or not. Seems to me to be a pretty obvious thing. As you say, a lot of the parents are Muslim. I'm just reading the figure. 98% of pupils at the schools are Muslim. How significant a factor do you think that is in this whole affair?
I would say it is a significant factor because I'm not sure if you were aware of Project Trojan Horse, and I'm aware that that is putting a lot of Muslim parents in the back foot. I won't go into discussions about that, but I understand there is skepticism and misinformation that's been fed right into that fear. And for me, especially since the people who are leading up the actual protests are not parents in themselves and have no real personal focus in the actual protest,
right,
that really brings up red flags for me.
Yes, well, it's significant, I think, this intervention by the Education Secretary, because what he's saying is that parents do not have the right to veto education. And a lot of these parents are saying that they think that they do have that right. They think they have the right to tell the head teacher what he can and cannot teach. But it seems to me that, of course, parents shouldn't have that right to veto because, there's lots of fundamentalist Christians don't, for example, believe in the theory of evolution. They believe in creationism. They believe that Noah's Ark had a polar bear in it and some kangaroos, and they don't want their children taught science. We cannot allow the parents to have that veto, can we?
I'm afraid in this case, They have absolutely all their rights to educate them in their own homes personally, and I'm absolutely fine with that. But when it comes to schools and there's a national curriculum providing for that, they must understand that they're in a country that very much values equality. And ultimately, Damian Hinds actually doing that is a good thing, but there needs to be more support from actual counsellors in the local Birmingham area on this, and also that parents are being encouraged, be it in Anderton's or Parkfield, to consult with the actual head teachers and discuss that. And really, there is a huge need for people to be informed rather than resisting and listening to the leaders and actually educate themselves and inform themselves going forward.
I'm just thinking this must be enormously intimidating for the children who are at the school, because there's going to be some kids there who will know that they are different. They will feel that already. And when they see the anger and the rage that is directed by their parents and their parents' friends against them, it's going to make it very difficult for them a few years down the line to come out and tell their parents that they're gay.
Yes, it's one of the things where I've been fortunate. I haven't been in the position where I have to be under 18, and the idea of being LGBTQ would led to people literally being thrown out of their homes. But this really makes provision to get in on an early basis to explain that being lesbian, gay, trans, or bi, or anything outside of being heterosexual is actually okay, and giving kids a good start when it comes to the world around them.
My worry is going to be that this will have a knock-on effect, and we're already seeing protests outside other schools. You're going to have to be quite a brave teacher now to say that you want to introduce a No Outsiders programme, because you're going to be terrified, presumably, that a rent-a-mob is going to turn up at the school gates, is going to start shouting at you, and that you're going to end up being abused. This deputy head teacher has been given advice by the police on how to travel home because they're so concerned that he might be subject to physical attacks.
And this is obviously in the current culture we have at the moment as well. That just adds on top of the rise with, I'm not going to use the B word, which ends in a T, because loads of people talked about it before, but when it's already been on the rise in terms of violence against LGBT people, it just adds a further layer of struggle.
Okay.
When, in this case, Andrew Moffat's done a really good job and has been commended for it.